Semper Fi, short for Semper Fidelis, which is Latin for always faithful. It's the motto of the United States Marine Corps, in which I proudly served in World War II. Now, the word always is important because there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. Your oath of enlistment is a solemn promise to maintain the Marine Corps values of honor, courage, and commitment. It's a promise for a lifetime, and I think you'd agree that such dedication doesn't end just because you take off the uniform. And what a uniform! May sound foolish, but what first attracted me to the Marines was that dashing uniform. Although I had to wait till I was 20 until I could even think of enlisting. I was this nice Jewish girl from Long Island, New York, and well, that sort of thing just wasn't done back then. It was okay that I was a typist or a sales girl, but the idea I'd actually be joining up was pretty outrageous. After Pearl Harbor, everybody wanted to do their bit for the war effort. My best friend and I tried to get jobs at the Ransbury factory where they were making ball turrets for the B-24 bombers. They took one look at our last names, Schubert and Myers, and said, "No thanks." That was probably my first encounter with anti-Semitism. But the Marines didn't care about stuff like that. When I first took the test to join up, I was so nervous. And when I passed, I couldn't believe my luck. This didn't go over too well with my folks. My brother was already in the Army, and the idea of a daughter joining the military was just unthinkable. But I was 20, and there was nothing they could do about it. I decided on the Marines. If you're going to go with the best. That's how I felt. So in May 1943, off I went to the 33rd Battalion at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for basic training. I'm not gonna lie, training was hard, but I enjoyed it. It was the first time in my life I was doing something for myself. Even the train ride from New York to North Carolina was exciting because I'd never traveled out of the city before. Well, maybe Jersey or upstate, but never alone. And it was quite the culture shock, let me tell you. The way we were brought up, you don't go out of the bathroom without a robe on. You just don't. And now I'm undressing in front of 100 women. I was always the shy, quiet one in the corner, and now here I am, showering with 50 women in one big shower. I was very modest. Boy, did I have to get over it. Basic lasted 6 weeks, at the end of which I was sent to Camp Elliott near San Diego, California. Now, this was a huge training ground for artillery and tanks of the 2nd Marine Division. I commuted between Camp Elliott and North Island Naval Station. My first choice was radio installation for aviation. That's what I hoped for. But they didn't ask what I wanted. They just gave me a book on hand tools and said, learn it from start to finish. I didn't know anything about tools. I mean, I know there's a hammer, a screwdriver, a pair of pliers, right? No, I had to learn all about drills and saws. The best thing about the tool room, though, it was in one of the hangars, so I got to see all these planes. I absolutely fell in love with the F-4U Corsair. What a plane. I heard later the Japanese pilots considered it the best American fighter. I just loved the roar of that powerful engine and the Marines logo on the fuselage. You know, there was a saying at the time, free a man to fight. And that's what we did. When I was trained up, they took the man off the job and shipped him out. I mean, that's all it was. We were there to replace the man. We were the first group of women at that station, and, well, the men I worked with were like big brothers. They didn't make fun of us or tease us. They looked on us as fellow Marines. About 1,000 female officers and 18,000 enlisted women served during World War II. During the last year of the war, when every available man was off fighting the Japanese in the Pacific, over half the personnel in Marine Corps bases across the U.S. were women. Not all men went away, though, and well, that was lucky for me because I met my future husband at North Island. His name was Bernie Howards. He was really keen and, well, he proposed after just a couple of dates. I told him, I can't marry you, I'm Jewish. And he laughed at me. And I took that very hard. I thought, he's laughing at me because I'm Jewish? And he said, I'm Jewish too. My last name was Horwitz, but they changed it to Howards when I went in for boxing. So out of 3,000 Navy people on the base, I found the one other Jew. You know, in Yiddish we have a word, beshert. It means destiny, a preordained event. It usually refers to a chance encounter that leads to romance. So just like that, beshert brought me and Bernie together. We couldn't marry while we were in service, so it wasn't until I was discharged in April 1946 that we could finally tie the knot in New York. We moved to Bernie's hometown of Milwaukee, and he worked in a shoe store. I picked up work in an accounting office and tried to settle down, but it wasn't easy. Once the war was over, you were handed your discharge papers and your pay to go home. Goodbye, go back to the kitchen. Those 2 years really shaped me, made me who I am. I've never regretted it. The only thing I regret is that we were never given the opportunity to stay in service. Those are the best years of my life. I wasn't ready to become a brand new bride and mother right off the bat. In Milwaukee, we had 3 boys, Michael, Gary, and Kenneth. And when we moved to Racine, Jeffrey and Laurel completed our family. I was suddenly the traditional housewife with the man, the head of the household, making all the decisions. I'd been on my own for 2 years, making my own decisions, and it all quite suddenly reverted back to the way it was. Don't misunderstand me. I loved my family. My children meant the world to me. But Bernie was very controlling. He wasn't making much money, and we would argue a lot. I'm sure the children could hear us fighting, and that just broke my heart. We moved to Madison in 1966. I worked as a teacher's aide at Hugel Elementary and started going to Temple Beth El. The rabbi there was this remarkable man by the name of Manfred Swarzynski. He was born in Germany and served as a rabbi in Berlin. He used his sermons to speak out against the Nazi regime and was sent to a concentration camp at Sachsenhausen. He suffered humiliation and torture, but was unexpectedly offered freedom on the condition he leave the country. So in 1940, after a brief stay in Chicago, he accepted the post at Temple Beth El, helping many other Holocaust survivors reach America and freedom. Temple life was invigorating. It was a very inclusive congregation, open to gay and lesbian people, which was something very close to my heart because my sister was gay. I became very active in the Temple Sisterhood. I was involved in Sunday school, baked cookies, made matzo balls, and I set out Shabbat candles and wine on Friday nights. My little girl Laurel would come to services with me, but she'd fall asleep whenever Rabbi Swarzynski read from the Torah. I'd apologize for her snoring, and he would just say, "Oh, that's okay. It's probably the best sleep she's gotten all week." In 1987, Bernie suffered a massive stroke and was confined to a care facility until he died in 2001. This may sound harsh, but I had a second lease on life. I learned to become an independent woman again. I traveled to all the places I had only seen in magazines: Israel, Italy, France, Belgium, and I attended many Marine reunions. I stood up for social justice and women's rights, and I was one of 11 women veterans on the first Badger Honor Flight on April 17, 2010. I think it's fair to say I've had a good life. And if I see a fellow Marine on the street, or if someone has one of these stickers on their car, I can walk up to them, stick out my hand, and proudly say, "Semper Fi, brother."